Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for joining the class again. This is our fourth class. And last time we just finished with the database, how to create the database. And today we are going to talk about the REST request, what it means and how it's built up. So as you see from the front end, when we fill out the form, so the request will go to the endpoint. The endpoint is part of the backend. So actually it's not a separate unit, or it will be part of the backend. When we do the coding part and we will write some code, then you will see for yourself. So why do we use REST requests and REST responses? These are altogether the web services, the REST web service. And when we talk about services or web services, you have to understand the following thing. We use web services so that different applications can communicate with each other. So a web service is a very good means just to send information from one application to the other application on the internet, for example. So we differentiate between two types of web services. We know the SOAP web service and the REST web service. The structure is very different. So the SOAP request structure is completely different from the REST one. But the SOAP request is not in the scope of this course, so we are not going to talk about this. We are only going to talk about the REST request. So, or the REST response, so that's about the REST web services. So when we talk about REST request, it can include different HTTP functions. I just written down the most important HTTP functions like the GET, the POST, the PUT, and the DELETE. These are different functions we are going to use inside a REST request. There are some more, so when you go onto the internet and you try to find the different HTTP methods we are going to use in a request, then you see then here's a GET, POST, PUT, DELETE, patch. There are some others, but the most important is the GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE. So the question is, what do these mean? You know, because we can just write, we can see here PUT, but we don't exactly know what it means. So when we come back here to our picture, then we will see in this picture when we fill out a form, let's say with three different data like name, address, and email address. These are three different information. We will send it and it's going to be saved in the database. This is called a PUT request. So when we save something into the database, it's going to be called as a PUT request, right? So that one. I'll give you another example. So when we are here and we want to call a website and we want to see different houses on the website which are for sale and the prices next to these houses and the different addresses. So we see a long list on the website when the website is loading. So that means these data will come from the database directly onto the website. So that means we are getting this data from the database. That means we are going to use here the GET request. So once the site is loading, the site will get this information from the database. That can be one scenario. The other scenario is, for instance, when you are on a website and you click on a button. And by clicking on the button, you will see a long list of information and different fields which are already filled out. This information will also come from the database. So it's also GET request. But the way we are doing that is completely different because we are clicking on a button here. And in the former example, the site was loading. So it doesn't matter if we click on a button or not, but when the data come to the front end, basically that's a GET request. Okay, so what is PUT request and the DELETE request? So actually, when you take a look at this picture, and let's say you have an option on the website where you call some data you have already put into the database before, let's say 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And you click on the button and you call this data, and they appear in a form, in different form fields. And you click on the, first you change something here. Let's say you change the name from Bull to Mendelssohn, right? So the new surname is Mendelssohn. And then you want to save it to the database here. So you click on modify, and by clicking on modify, you will save this data into the database. And this one, the Bull, will be changed to Mendelssohn, to the new surname. That's called a put request. So that means a put request is actually an update. So when we update information into database. So that's very important to understand, because that is the difference between a post and a put. So when somebody asks you, what is the difference between a post and a put? The post is a brand new record we are placing into the database and saving there. A put is a record which already exists in the database, and we want to update that. And this updated information will be sent to the database with a put request. And I think the delete speaks for itself. That means we want to delete some information. So when you are here and you call in this record and you want to delete from the database, so the whole record should be gone. That means you have to click on the delete button. By clicking on it, so this data will disappear. So you will delete this record from the database. It's not there anymore. So that is very important to understand that. So once again, so these are the 4 main methods which are used in a request, in a post request, sorry, in a REST request. And the next one is the response. So if you come back here again, and we discussed this flow, and what about the response? What do we get back? So if we send out a GET request, that means we want to get some information from the database. If it's successful and nothing happens, then we will get back the data. So the response is the data we are calling, and here is the long list which will appear. So the data will come back from the database. But let's say, what happens if something happens on the way? Let's say the database is down, or something gets stuck on the way from the back end to the front end, so it's not successful. In that case, we need to get back a HTTP error code. So that means if you go onto the internet and you are searching for the HTTP status codes, actually you will see different status codes like 101, 102, 200. So let's say, when the data come back successfully onto the front end, that you will get back code which is 200. That means your request and response was successful, right? So, but what if, for example, something happens and the page is not found? You will get back a 404 message that the page is not found. There can be different other scenarios, and you will get back these error codes. And once you see these error codes, you will know what the problem is. That's why, to understand, the HTTP response always carries a code. It can be a 200, which is successful, or different other codes, and you can identify what error happened. And for example, when you have to do troubleshooting, you have to see first of all the error code, and then you can do troubleshooting. So that is very important to understand, and actually that was the subject of our class today. Once again, we wanted to talk about these 4 different methods which are used in the REST request, and we were talking about the codes which are used in the REST response, actually. So that's very important to understand. And then, next time we are going to start with the backend, and I will explain to you how the backend works, and basically you will see why this REST request and the codes in it are important for the backend, right? Thank you for taking the time just to learn today, and I hope you are going to have a good day today, and see you next time. See you later. Bye bye.